Alright, hi everyone and welcome back to another video. So in today's video I'm going to be breaking down another 5 mistakes that you're making in the gym and how to correct them. So once you correct these mistakes, I assure you that you're going to start getting some more satisfaction from training and you're going to get some better results. So let's get into the mistakes that you could be making in the gym. So the first mistake that you could be making is not training with a structured training program. So each time when you show up to the gym, you should be following a structured training program instead of just randomly showing up and doing any random exercise that you can think of. So the benefits of training with a structured training program, which includes the same exercises weekly, means that we can improve our technique with the exercise as we're getting more practice with the exercise for an extended time. So I'm thinking of a few weeks up to a few months. So if we get more practice with an exercise, we become better with the exercise, we can target our muscles that much better, which is going to equal a better stimulus on the exercise. We're going to experience less unnecessary fatigue with the exercise, and that's a really good thing, as the less fatigue we have, the more volume we can train with, which is very important for muscle building. If we have too much unnecessary fatigue from an exercise, this means that it could affect how much volume we can train other muscle groups and also the muscle group that we're directly training in the training session. So exercise volume is really important for muscle hypertrophy or building muscle. So you want to maximize it as much as possible. So each week you don't want to change the exercise, and you also don't want to change your exercise technique, whether you're aware of that or not. I personally like to train with an exercise for at least 4 to 6 weeks at a time, or even up to a few months. And I do this so I can get extended practice with the exercise for a long time. And so I actually become an expert in the exercise by the end of it, and performing the exercise with really good technique just becomes second nature for me. So I keep an exercise in my training program once my joints and muscles still feel healthy and I'm still making progress with the exercise. So it does take a bit of time to master an exercise, so that's weekly practice multiple times per week. But after a few weeks and months of practicing with this movement, your technique is going to be a lot better. So also, with our training program, we should be aiming for a specific goal with our training program, as trying to aim for too many goals at once just means you're not going to really make much progress with any one goal, and you're going to be pretty much spinning your wheels, and over the long term that can be a lot of lost time and a lot of lost progress. So be specific with your goals. So maybe aim for 1 or 2 goals in your training program and stick with that for a few weeks to a few months to see really good progress in those goals. So ideally, your last phase of training should help with your next phase of training. For example, you could start your block of training with a hypertrophy block focusing on building muscle. Then after a few months, you could go into a strength phase, and the muscle built during the hypertrophy phase is only going to potentiate greater strength gains during the strength phase. So you're going to get even stronger as we've added more muscle mass. And then if you're an athlete, you could even go into a power or peaking phase to prepare you for competition. So you're converting that strength and being able to express it as power, which you're going to need for sports which require dynamic movements. So also in a training program, so any good training program is going to tell us how many sets and reps we should train with each week, what intensity we're going to train with each week, and the intensity and volume can either decrease or increase across the training program. It depends on what is your goal. So depending on how much volume or intensity we have in the program, we're going to receive a different training effect. So, for example, if you wanted to gain muscle or strength, both of those are going to require two different approaches to your training. Okay, so the mistake that you could be making is using easy exercises or ones you like instead of the hard ones. So, you may use some exercises because you think they look nice, maybe they feel a little bit nice, or maybe you've seen another person use them before in the gym. But when you actually look at them, you don't get much stimulus in the exercise or progress towards your goal. I've also seen people perform exercises such as punching the air with weights, which in the hope that this exercise is going to carry over to increase punching power, when in reality it has little carryover to increase punching power and sports performance. So these exercises are just a waste of time, and you're not going to make any progress, and you're going to just spin your wheels. So another exercise I've seen someone do in the gym before is a single arm Smith machine press to target one side of their chest. So there are definitely better exercises you could be doing in the gym if you want to target your chest. So for example, I can think of the dumbbell chest fly if you want to target both of your chest muscles independently from each other. The benefit of using chest flies instead of the single arm Smith machine press is that we can train both of our sides of our chest independently from each other and at the same time. So this is great for people who want to make progress in the gym but don't have all the time in the world to train. Also, if muscle hypertrophy and strength are your goals for your chest, triceps and front delts, you definitely should include barbell and dumbbell chest press variations, as these are really good exercises to include, as we can lift greater weight with these exercises. We can therefore cause greater disruption to our muscles. We're going to receive a better stimulus from these exercises, and we can train with less volume compared to chest flies, for example, as the disruption to our muscles is greater. So for example, if you're doing 6 sets of chest flies to get the same amount of muscle disruption, with a barbell bench press you may only need to train it 4 sets to get the same amount of disruption, making it the superior exercise between the two. Now, so there is a space for chest flies in your program. So for example, if you wanted to increase your weekly chest volume without overtraining your other muscles, such as your triceps and front delts, you can include them. Also, if you want to target different chest fibers, which the barbell bench press doesn't hit, then you can also include them, and you're going to get equal nice chest development. So, not sure what to do? So your multi-joint exercises done with barbells, dumbbells and cables in that order are going to offer you the best bang for your buck in terms of weight you can lift, disruption you can apply to the muscle, and stimulus you're going to get from the exercise. So exercise selection is really important, and it's definitely something that you should be conscious of. So depending on your goal, some exercises are going to be better for others, for some goals compared to others. So whether that's muscle hypertrophy, muscle strength, power, or fat loss. Using the wrong exercise for your chosen goal just needlessly slows down your progress. It increases your risk of injury, and it's just not an efficient use of energy. Okay, the third mistake you could be making with your training is only training what you see in the mirror or certain body parts. So for girls, I'm thinking of glutes and legs, and for guys, I'm thinking of arms and chest. So it's a great start that you're training these muscles, but you definitely could do better. So if I was thinking under the line of aesthetics, if your goal is to get bigger muscles, if you have some muscles which are bigger than others, but others which are smaller, it definitely gives your body a very unbalanced look. And the more you train some muscles but neglect training others, the more that imbalance is going to become more apparent. So I know you've probably seen a guy in the gym. He has a really big chest, maybe a wide, thick back, but it looks like he's never trained his legs in his life. And that definitely kills the look. So make sure to train your muscles equally so you have a nice, even and aesthetic look. Now, if from a performance and injury prevention standpoint, if you're training some muscles but not training others, you're going to develop muscular imbalances. So some of your antagonistic muscles could become stronger than the from the other side, and this is just opening up the door to injury. So definitely don't do that. If you're an athlete and you want to increase your performance, you're definitely sabotaging your performance. So, for example, if you're a rugby player and you possess strong upper body pressing strength, this is a great attribute to have in a sport such as rugby. But if you neglect your leg training, you're definitely leaving performance on the table. So, for example, if you're not training your legs as much as you could, that means that you're not going to be able to sprint as fast as you could. You're not going to be able to gain the hard yards because your leg drive is not where it could be. And you're not going to be able to apply as much force in the tackle. So you're leaving performance on the table there. So if we wanted to include an exercise or extra volume towards a certain muscle group, it would only be if you have a weak point or your sport requires you to be strong in a particular movement pattern. So for example, if my triceps are not that strong and I want to increase my pressing power because I'm a rugby player, I could dedicate extra tricep work and tricep dominant pressing exercises to bring up this weak point. Also, if your sport requires you to become strong in a movement pattern and a particular exercise in the gym mimics this movement pattern and it can make you become more proficient in your sport's movement pattern, then you're definitely going to experience increased performance in your sport if this movement pattern is included more regularly in your training and you make gains with this movement pattern. Alright, so the fourth mistake you could be making is not warming up or doing any mobility work. So warm-up helps us to prepare us for the session both psychologically and physically. It helps to warm up our bodies, increase our body's temperature. It prepares our joints and muscles for the session. It also helps us to activate some muscles which will be used during the upcoming session, and your training session should definitely have a mobility component to it, as we want to improve our long-term mobility so we can train in better positions, which is only going to allow us to provide a better stimulus from an exercise. We can target our muscles better, we're going to receive less stress on our joints, and we're going to be moving in a more efficient way. So for example, if you are using the high bar barbell squat to target your quadricep muscles but you have poor ankle dorsiflexion, you definitely should be working on your ankle dorsiflexion in your warm-up and also outside of the gym. With increased ankle dorsiflexion, you're going to be able to train the squat so you have a more upright squat. Your knees are going to be able to track over your toes a lot easier, and therefore you're going to be able to target your quads that much easier instead of a more bent over squat where maybe you feel your lower back and glutes a lot but you don't really feel much of your quads. So this was the case with me. I had poor ankle dorsiflexion and I went about correcting it over the last year and my ankle dorsiflexion has improved a lot. I have a lot more upright squat now. I can feel my quads a lot more, and which should be one of the prime movers in the squat, and therefore I've developed bigger and stronger quads. That is a really important point. Alright, so the last mistake you could be making, mistake number 5, is not having a long-term plan for long-term gains. So your training that you're doing at the moment could have got you really good gains in the past, but you might notice that nowadays your progress is slowing down and you may even start to see a regression in your numbers that you're hitting in the gym. So why is this? So the exercises and training parameters that you are using used to be novel, so they used to cause a new stress which the body had to adapt to. But our bodies are very adaptable and our bodies can adapt to a new training parameter within a few weeks. So this training is no longer causing a stress, and therefore you're not getting any more gains from the exercise. So instead, you should periodize your training. So you should change up the training parameters every few weeks to months. So focus on one goal first. So it could be muscle building, then moving on to strength phase after a few months. That extra muscle is going to help you become stronger, and therefore you're not going to see any more plateaus. So you can almost think of it as adding muscle. It's like adding the hardware to your computer, and then the strength training is like training the software, so it's your CNS, to lift that weight more efficiently. So we should always periodize our training to see consistent results, and one attribute is going to build on top of another. So in order to see an improvement with one particular attribute, we need to train consistently over the weeks and months to see any consistent improvement with that one attribute. Alright guys, so they were another 5 mistakes that you could be making in the gym. So I know with some smarter programming, you're going to experience less frustration with your training, you're going to get quicker progress, and that's possible for everyone. So it really helps to be honest with yourself when you're in the gym. Ask yourself, is what I am doing really helping me, or is it hindering me? So I know with a bit of know-how, a little bit of help, lots of hard work and a consistent effort, anyone can make progress with their fitness journey and goals, and fitness can be enjoyable. So if you enjoyed the video, please like it, please share it with your fitness enthusiast friends, please follow my account for more fitness related content. Also, if you missed my other video where I broke down another 5 training mistakes that you could be making in the gym, you can find that on my profile, whether that's Instagram or Facebook. So guys, if you also would like some more individualized help, you can reach out to me via the DMs in Instagram and Facebook, and we can have a chat and see what we can do to help you reach your goal. So guys, I hope you start to see some progress with your training and you start to enjoy training. So keep hammering, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.